I'm back at it again. Okay, so I came to talk to you about Matthew 10:16, which tells you to be as wise as a serpent and to be as harmless as a dove. And I know that people don't really think about that, but some people might say that's manipulation, but no. Everybody doesn't need to know what's going on in your life. Everybody does not need to know what your right hand doesn't need to know what your left hand is doing. All right, and here's the reason why that I say all the things that I say. If you're not wise, you need to be wise as a serpent. Means that you need to be cunning. You need to be aware. You need to make wise decisions, but also remain in your Christianity, like remain in your integrity of being harmless, innocent, pure, and not like doing things to attack others. Right? Perfect example of this. I'll just use myself as my testimony as an example. I have been under witchcraft attack many times in my life. All right. A few of the times I was aware, right? And in the times that I was aware, I did not say anything to the person. I never confronted the person, but I took preemptive attacks. Like there were situations where I had to be in the person's presence, right? But the person didn't know that I knew that they were doing spell work on me. Or for instance, I had a boss or supervisor, I should say, who gave me a doll, right? If you black, you know that if somebody gave you a doll, baby, you know what that is, okay? Now, they didn't just give me any doll. They gave me a doll that was a replica of myself, okay? And it's not funny, but, I had to play it off and act like, oh, thank you so much. But, because I'm in a work environment, but I melted that thing and I threw it in the garbage so that it cannot return back to me in any capacity. But, the Bible does say that any weapon formed will not prosper, right? But that doesn't mean that it cannot, it cannot have an effect, right? And because I did accept it from her, there was an effect of it, right? But being wise, she didn't know, right? And even after that, that person would consistently offer me food. All right. Oh, I got this for you. Oh, why don't you eat with us? Oh, you didn't eat this food. And I would never eat not a thing that lady gave me because I already knew she was doing witchcraft. Nobody knew she was doing witchcraft, but I did, right? But the thing was, I had to be wise about it. I couldn't be at work like mad at her and had an attitude with her or be upset with her because even though it's spiritual warfare that I was dealing with, like I'm still in the physical having to deal with this lady and I need to maintain my job, right? And so because I knew some of the things that she was doing, I was able to pray. I was able to preemptively go around the things that she was doing, right? And so that is one example of that. Another example of that is if God told you to do something, everybody doesn't need to know why, right? You can tell who God reveals to you that you can, or confirms to you that you can tell, but everybody doesn't need to know everything. Why? Because everybody does not wish you well, and it can cause delay. Another example of that is God told me to go somewhere. My behind told the people that was closest to me because, God gave me confirmation of two of the people that I told, but someone that I told, he did not give me confirmation. And giving them access to that knowledge, I got to see them switch up, lie. Like I never knew the person was like this. So for me, I just was like, oh my gosh, whatever. But in retrospect, I didn't get confirmation and I wasn't being wise. Right? I was so happy to tell this person because I trusted them and they knew all my business. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, this person was actively working against me and talking about me like a dog behind my back. And so in this situation, I definitely was harmless and a dove because even after the fact, when I found out the person was doing all these things and saying all these lies, I never spoke on it because it didn't matter. You know what I mean? And you might say, oh, well, you should have said something, but realistically, if you're being wise as a dove, right? God says he will fight for you. If someone is talking negatively about you and making up stories or twisting the truth or telling stories out of context or just doing stuff behind the scenes, witchcraft and other things, it's not your place to go confront them. If you're wise as a dove, then you would know that and if you're wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, then you would know that if you confront that person, that you're going to cause more warfare and more issues, and you can cause other people to turn from you, right? And being harmless as a dove is praying for that person because you're innocent in the situation, but you don't always have to speak up on what the person was doing, because God will reveal anything that is false. Not only will he reveal anything that is false, he'll reveal that person. Right? And there's a judgment attached to lying, especially on God's children, baby. So you want to make sure that in that situation where someone is wronging you, you are praying for them. You are lifting up in prayer. You're wishing them the best. You're blessing those who curse you. And you might say, well, I'm not blessing nobody, but you have to understand that when Jesus dealt with the Pharisees, he wasn't cursing them. Yes, Jesus was Captain Checkaho all day, okay? He was definitely straightforward, telling the truth, and he was always checking people. That's absolutely truthful. However, you have to be wise, right? Wise as a serpent, and know when to speak and when not to speak. Because there are times where back to Jesus, where Jesus wasn't going around everywhere, my haters, my haters, my haters. If you know that people are haters, then you know that the spirit of Satan is in them. Or not even the spirit of Satan, demonic spirits, or any spirits they're open to because of their jealousy, their bitterness, their anger, their envy, or whatever trauma they have from their past that left open doors, or familial bondages that left open doors. If you recognize that people, it's not the people, it's the thing working in them. Sometimes it is the people, but there are other times where it's the thing working in them, right? They open themselves to darkness. And if you recognize that, and then you can be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove and pray for them. Because if you are so angry with this person for doing these things to you, all you're showing is that you don't really understand God. One, and two, you're being in your physical, you're being in your flesh. Why are you being in your flesh? Because this person, it's the thing in them that is acting. And so if you're harmless as a dove, pray for them. Pray for them, bless them, and pray for them. And because here's the thing, and I think a lot of us don't recognize this. There were times where we were horrible people, right? And God was not in us, and darkness was working within us, some more than others. But the reality is, there were times when you weren't with God, and God had mercy on you, and someone was praying for you. And even if someone wasn't praying for you, God had the mercy on you, and he gave you the opportunity to come to him. So when you have people coming against you, whether they're family, friends, just coworkers, random people you don't know who just got issues, whatever the case may be, you have to recognize that it's not them, it's the thing in them, and you need to pray for them, because just like them, God gave you another opportunity, and he let you go through your mess so that you could come back to him and be the way you're supposed to be in his kingdom. And so going back to the original point, Matthew 10:16, when we talk about being wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, it is a protection measure. Okay, it is a protection measure. It's a maturity measure as a Christian to ensure that, one, you are moving and making decisions that are beneficial to you without putting yourself at risk, right, for attack, right? Because just because you know something doesn't mean you need to act, right? I could know something about somebody and they would never know, because I would never speak on it. Because why? Why do I need to speak on it? There are people that I'm not friends with, I'm not cool with, and I know all their business. I can ruin them. But why would I do that? Why would I do that? Right? If I'm being wise as a serpent and I'm going to be harmless as a dove, as a Christian, I would never speak on those things because it's not necessary. Speaking on those things means that I want people to look at them in a bad light. And I don't need anybody to look at anybody in a bad light, because God is always going to vindicate, right? And also, not only that, but you need to know what's imperative for the time being. Meaning, if you're wise as a serpent and you know at your job, they are planning to fire you, right? You would start looking for your job, and maybe you would, if you have some information that you could use against them in some way that's going to get you more money, maybe you would use it. I don't know. I'm just saying that you're thinking preemptively as a Christian and being wise and making decisions without putting your Christianity and who you are in Christ at risk, essentially. So you're still being wise, but you're also preemptively taking the steps necessary so that you don't put yourself at risk as a Christian and you stay pure before God. And so that's the point of Matthew 10:16. Deuces.